Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here, and welcome to the second episode of the Soul Imagineer the Soul Imagineer Tribal Council podcast, Season 2, Redemption Island. Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, yeah, oh, hey, oh, hey, yeah, oh, hey, oh, hey, yeah. Yeah, that's enough of that. And in today's episode 2 of the Tribal Council podcast, I like to call Points for Subjectivity, Steven. Mark it up, Steven. Mark it up if you're a Steven Universe fan. Points for Subjectivity. That is what we're going to be going over. We're kind of going to be talking about sort of the results of the judging, kind of like the mixed opinions that people have had about which projects have won, the pros and cons of both of the projects going forward. And we're also going to talk about the Redemption Island duel, how much of a chance does DSquared actually have getting back into the game, all sorts of stuff. Well, with my friend, Space Mountain, how you doing, Space?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Is college as busy for you as it is for me? It's probably busier for you, I'm guessing. Probably busier.
I'm sure we're both in the same boat.
No, I don't know. I'm only taking 2 classes.
Well, right now 2 have only started, so.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, Space, this is actually kind of a convenient setup we got going on here because you are on one tribe and I am on the other tribe. So therefore, I'm going to kick your ass.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah. No, therefore, we're going to get equal perspectives for both people on both tribes, so that should be a nice way to do this little podcast. For those of you not in the know, the Soul Imagineer is a Survivor-themed armchair Imagineering competition hosted by R. Michael on the WDWMagic Imagineering boards. It is structured entirely around Survivor. There's tribes of people who do armchair Imagineering-based projects. One tribe loses and gets sent to Tribal Council. Someone gets voted off. Rinse, wash, repeat. Have a merge. And then, play till the end. Soul Survivor. So how's it been kind of playing the first couple rounds, Space? How's your experience with the Soul Imagineer been so far?
It's been really fun. I've never seen an episode of Survivor, but I'm really enjoying the way the competition's set up. This was actually the first competition that I ever saw on the forums last year, when I started getting more familiar with stuff. And I really enjoyed watching all the shenanigans ensue, people getting voted out, people getting blindsided. It's all part of the fun.
Oh yeah.
It's very interesting to be on the competitive side of things now.
I think this season is kind of going through a slow burn right now, but I think once we hit the merge, it's going to get crazy.
Yeah, it's the calming before the storm right now.
Exactly.
I mean, we had a storm. We had like a hurricane in the first.
Oh yeah, I mean, what was that like? Just being involved in what I personally consider something so dramatic that it would make a good first episode of a regular Survivor season. The DSquared thing.
That was the funniest thing I think I've ever been a part of on the phone. I was having a ball with that.
Oh my god.
I don't know if everyone else was, but I was having fun with it.
Yeah, I was kind of like in strategic like 7 heaven bliss with the whole thing, because I was just like, oh my god, this is just like so not what you're supposed to do strategy wise.
It was funny because I think on the last podcast DSquared was talking about he went to one person and was like, if you don't join me, you're going to be against me. And I was like, hey, that was me. He basically called me out and said that I had to join him or else. I said, please don't do it.
Of course, it's all in good fun, and I honestly think the experience probably made DSquared a wiser player, and I do think if he comes back from Redemption Island, he probably won't be as strategically aggressive. I'm sure he'll have strategy. I'm not saying he won't have strategy, but I'm just saying I don't think he'll try to burn the game to the ground like he did the first time.
He went in guns blazing in the first round. And I mean, I gotta give him props. It was very entertaining, and that's what this game's supposed to be about, is entertainment. value.
I mean, I felt so happy for our Michael, just genuinely, because I was like, oh my god, if I was our Michael, I would feel like I just struck gold here with this first episode.
I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one thing that we haven't talked about on the podcast yet has been the reward challenge that ended out episode 1, which both of the tribes had to design a expansion to Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida. Now, I found this interesting, Space Mountain. Like, this is kind of going to be a running theme in comparing our two tribes everything's a podcast to me. Our two tribes podcast comparing. Yeah, now I want to create a podcast. That's going to be my niche. I want to create the first podcasting reality show. America's Best Podcaster. That's me, ladies and gentlemen. That's my ambition in life. Oh God. Okay, no, but seriously, the two teams had to design projects, and I think the thing I noticed in both of the projects was my tribe created something that kind of relied on a unified theme that kind of tied everything together, whereas your tribe was more kind of let's throw a lot of ideas at the wall and see which ones stick. And obviously, judging by the results, I think our Michael can very much say he kind of likes your guys' approach a little better, but I don't know. It's just kind of been like, I don't want to say it's controversial on our tribe, but it has kind of been like, well, look at us. Like, we were very proud of the animation thing we did. And I'm not saying yours was bad. I'm just saying, like, let me ask you this. What decision led you guys to do the 3 different lands?
Well, now I have to go back like a week to remember this. I think basically this was our first. I think this was the immunity challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what the reward was that, which actually didn't end up being a reward for us, because originally our tribe was supposed to get a. So basically, you couldn't use Star Wars, Pixar, or Muppets for this expansion. And the reward was supposed to be that the person who won the Tower of Terror project, which was Monorail Red, for her tribe, we were supposed to be able to choose. We could have done anything basically.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That ended up not happening because the tribe switched after the reward challenge because they were kind of uneven.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, after that, we kind of we spent about 2 days or so, I think, because the challenge I think was on maybe Friday or so, or no, maybe Thursday. So we spent about the first 2 days of the project brainstorming because we had about 9 days for this project. So we wanted to make sure that we got the ones that everyone was comfortable with.
Right.
And I think there was a wide variety of opinion because we had 7 people on the tribe at this point. And I think that Burton was definitely always going to be a part of it, whether or not it was Nightmare Before Christmas or Alice in Wonderland, which is another idea.
No.
Which, I mean, eventually we ended up not doing that, but it was more for the aesthetics of.
I don't like the aesthetics of that movie. I'm sorry.
Well, that was always one thing, and I'm not really I wouldn't say I'm not a Burton fan, but I just don't know his products very well, other than Sweeney Todd. So that was more towards a few other people in our tribe who had more of a background in it. So we're like, sure. And then I tried to do like sort of a maneuver the challenge a little bit because I wanted to do Marvel. Because it never said that you couldn't use Marvel, and then eventually we couldn't use Marvel because of the rights issue. Apparently that was still in play for this challenge. So basically that was thrown out the window. We ended up on Big Hero 6, which actually was a big concept of Sam's that he had thrown out originally, which we like laid low for a while, and then eventually it came back up. We didn't want to do one land or one unified theme because this is a huge area we're talking about. And we thought that longevity-wise, if Nightmare Before Christmas, I think that has stood the test of time. I mean, it's over 20 years now, and people still think of it as I think you'd agree that it's probably a classic film.
Yeah, it's definitely a classic. My only question would be in terms of making a whole land around it would it be able to sustain itself like outside of the holiday seasons that it's based around?
I think for this one at least, it was more of a mini land. I think for if I remember right, our project um, it took the streets of America, which is kind of a smaller area in DHS. So that was more of like a transition, and then our major land was Big Hero 6, with another sort of transition land being Nowhere from Guardians of the Galaxy, which I my thought process for that was that if Marvel ever got the rights, if Disney ever got the theme park rights back for Marvel, then it's set up in a location that you can further expand towards Avengers, etc. Later on, if you ever got the rights back. So that was really our thought process on that. We wanted to do something large, expansive, and bringing a lot of new things to DHS, and we really wanted to focus on dark rides and flat rides too.
Okay, okay. In terms of the brainstorming from our end of things, one of the early ideas I really wanted to run with was Kingdom Hearts.
Ah,
But unfortunately, my team wasn't really down for it outside of a couple people. But I was like, oh my God, we could do this area, and this area, and this area. We could have the Hollow Bastion, and we could have Traverse Town, and we could have Twilight Town, and the train and everything. Oh, it'd be amazing. But no, obviously, I think we ended up going with just an expansion of the animation courtyard very early on, which gave us a lot of time to kind of flesh out of our ideas. My baby in this project was Into the Inkwell, which was essentially like a big amalgamation of all the major studio releases that were before Mickey Mouse, mainly Lathograms, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland comedies. So what do you think of that ride in particular?
I thought that was good. I thought that was one of the highlights of the project. And we can even get into this with the second project too. But you guys did a Wix website, and apparently one of the things that has been happening with that website is when you make the site, for some different screen variations, pictures sometimes will crop over the text. So actually,
Right.
from my end, I couldn't read some of the pages. It was,
Yeah, that's been a problem. That's been a
um,
problem.
which I don't know what I don't know why that's suddenly become a problem because we've had
It sucks. It sucks because I feel like it kind of like puts an unfair bias against one project over the other when there really
yeah,
shouldn't be.
and especially when you're sweating bullets trying to get something in on
Yeah,
time,
yeah, totally,
and
totally.
we can talk about this more in project two, but I mean
Oh, we'll definitely talk about it more in
yeah
Project 2.
we had two people looking at the our screen saying everything's lined up, and then two other people saying no, it's not lined up. So how are we
Oh
supposed to
boy.
know which one?
Oh
How are we supposed
man.
to know which one to go with? And
Right.
I think you guys ran into that problem too, where whoever's doing the site, it it might show up perfectly for them, but then for someone else it might not, and that's very strange to me.
Mhm.
and but I mean, it's part of the game. You just kind of have to go with it. So
Right.
I did
But
think
I
that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I guess just kind of the overall approach to our project was kind of just this vast, expansive thing where it would all flow into each other. Like there would be a lake and there kind of be like a fantasy forest on one side and then kind of like a farmland on the other side. And the farmland would have stuff like Plane Crazy and stuff like the Into the Inkwell attraction. Meanwhile, the fantasy forest side would be home to the Bald Mountain, which would house the giant flume Fantasia ride.
Fantasia, yeah.
Uh,
Um,
I would say the only thing that kind of fell flat in our presentation was Duckburg, because I that was just something where it's like me and England were both like really into the idea of doing it, but no one else was really feeling it. And I should have just scrapped it. We should have just scrapped it altogether. We should have come up with something else. But it's like, all right, it's like all this awesome, like, flowing things like from the farm to the forest. And then there's a suburb. Yeah. No, it doesn't work. It just did not fit the time period at all.
and I think that was one of the things that our Michael in the review kind of hinted at. One of the things I found interesting was that I think both teams had a different, like you were saying before, both teams had a different perspective on I guess sort of the project as a whole. Whereas we kind of went for, okay, we can't use the three top billing IPs that would go in this location.
Right.
Like, clearly, some sort of Pixar expansion would be obvious for that location. We can't use that, so we got to go with something. What's something that is popular? What's something that's realistic if you couldn't choose those things? And I think that's where we went with the three different IPs, where it gives someone a variety, whereas I think you guys went with a very good Imagineering concept. I don't know how realistic it is though, and I think maybe that's where the difference of opinion came from.
I think the idea of something spread around a Fantasia e-ticket, like, I really like that concept. I really like the concept of an idea of a Fantasia e-ticket themed all around water. When you think about it, Space, just every single Fantasia short, from Fantasia and Fantasia 2000, with very few exceptions, revolve almost entirely around water.
That is true.
So I really kind of like got into that with my design of the Fantasia attraction. I really thought the Fantasia attraction kind of tied the whole thing together in a way. I guess the question would be, like, how interested would people be in this early animation history type of stuff? I just think for the actual park that it's going into, I think it very much kind of, I don't know, like you said, it's like, it's good Imagineering, but like, would the general public respond to it? Who knows?
And I think that's where the two teams kind of differed, was because while, okay, Big Hero 6 is an IP, you kind of have to go based off of the IP itself, whereas you guys had a lot more creativity, I guess, to your designs, because you have to be creative, because the subject that you're choosing is something that spawns creativity, I guess, in a way, like Fantasia Gardens and all this sort of foresty type watery attractions. I will say, I forgot to mention that we actually had a classic Toontown as part of our concept at one point, and we scrapped it because I forgot who it was, but someone had said that should go by Animation Courtyard and not on the other side of the park, and I think that's why in that. And also because Toontown had been done a while on the forums. I think even last year there was a DHS for the Solo Imagineer Season 1. There was a DHS challenge, and a couple people did Toontown for that. And I think that's why it was T-Cool. Yeah, he did Toontown last year, so he's like, I don't want to do that again.
Toontown is definitely one of the more lucrative things to do in the field of armchair Imagineering, I've noticed.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like the sea of armchair Imagineering.
Okay. All right. So I guess your tribe ended up winning the project, but you ended up losing Disney Princess because she dropped out, I'm assuming due to scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Which it was interesting because I thought we were going to get something in return.
Yeah, that was kind of the big controversy. So you want to talk about that a little bit, how that felt on your end?
It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a controversy. It was more like it was disappointment because you work so hard, you earn a win, and then it feels like you lost. Basically.
Sure.
Because I mean, not that she was contributing too much because of work and other obligations too. So it wasn't like you were losing a huge player on the team in that respect, but still, who knows, her schedule could have widened up, or someone else from another team could have come over and also contributed to. Either way, it's done and over. I was just more worried because if we lost Challenge 2, we'd now down 5 players to 7. And that's just setting up our team for complete annihilation.
Yeah, so luckily the teams are now 6-6, so that's a good kind of even number right now.
Yeah. So it ended up being nothing, but not that I was going to make a big thing out of it anyway.
Sure. I just want to point out, I think the first Project Immunity Challenge, it was totally subjective, and I think I do kind of, I don't, obviously I have a bias, like I worked on the project, but I think Michael's ruling was totally fair in that regard. I thought it was definitely a fair, subjective call on his end.
Yeah,
So
and
point
that's what all
one
these
to
stretching things
point
are.
one for subjectivity, Stephen. Point one.
Alrighty, you want to go
Okay.
on to the next one?
Yeah, let's go on to the next one. This is the Downtown Disney project.
Yes.
Space, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now that I have you on air, I'm just kind of gonna drop a ball on you right now.
Drop it away.
I thought your guys' project was a bit of a mess.
Ah.
And it wasn't just because of the whole issue with the pictures that you brought up. It was there were like so many structural things that you did. You guys completely changed the whole landscape of the Downtown Disney. Whereas what our team did was we completely just went and took what was already there and basically just rethemed everything. So I'm sorry, man. I don't mean to be harsh, okay? Like, are you
Oh no,
okay?
that's fine.
All
Am I
right, I'm
okay?
sorry.
I sneezed, but I'm fine.
Okay, okay. But this is kind of where the title point one for subjectivity, Stephen, comes into play, because I was completely fine losing the first project. I was a little less fine about this one. And you know what I did, Space? You know what
Sure,
I ended up doing?
go ahead.
I ended up talking to a friend of mine. I'm not going to say what friend it is, but suffice to say, he works somewhere at Disneyland. And I was
I
like,
know who this is.
well, don't say who it is if
No,
you
no,
do. But so my friend, he reviewed both projects, and I'm not going to quote anything that he wrote about your guys' projects because it would be too mean.
no.
But suffice to say, like, as a cast member who knows the ins and outs of the backstage areas of Disneyland Resort and everything and knows how that kind of stuff functions, he basically said there was absolutely no way any of what you guys proposed could actually happen.
Well, I think to defend our project a little bit.
Yeah,
I
by all means, defend away, because I'm just like putting it on blast right now, and I didn't even warn you that I was going to do this. So
no, that's fine. It's totally cool.
okay.
I think that I think our project stemmed from the prompt itself. I don't think the prompt was very realistic because it allowed us to basically destroy everything. And we asked RM this specifically. Like, all we had to do was just to keep. We could keep 5 of these realtors or dining locations. We could if we wanted to, and we did. I think we kept the World of Disney store, but literally everything in the complex can be demolished, like from starting from scratch. And
Just
that's what
because it can doesn't mean it should.
right, but that's what we went off of. We went off
Yeah,
of what the
yeah.
prompt said, whereas you guys took more of a. And I looked at you. I will be honest. I originally posted in our team PM. I was like, they have a pretty good map, and they have some pretty good ideas. I don't know how I feel about this one because we had that stupid thing with the website too, which was annoying
I'm
me.
not going to blame you guys for that, though. That is like totally off the table when it comes to my criticisms, because that's just completely unfair on your end.
Yeah. I mean, I can't comment to what. I do think that both of our Michael's reviews were pretty critical on both sides. I don't think there was very many good things to say, which was interesting. I mean, because we put a lot of effort into what we did.
Here was the problem that my team had with R. Michael's decision. And R. Michael, if you're listening, heart, we cool. But but my problem with R. Michael's decision was he essentially said that it came down to the fact that he thought our team based our project off of an 1800s Wild West town. When if he actually would have taken the time to read the layout that I had written down, that very clearly lays out the backstory and says that this was an 1800s gold rush town that then evolved into a modern day urban kind of shopping and dining district with the historical stuff around it. So I feel like our Michael kind of missed the point of the whole project, and I think he kind of I hate to point fingers here, but I think he just kind of skimmed through our intro without really paying attention to it. And
Well,
Michael, I don't have anything against you, buddy, and this is really no big deal in the grand scheme of things, but I don't know. It just like I thought I laid out pretty clearly that it wasn't an 1800s ghost town. It was actually like, a historic town in the modern day. Like, so I don't know.
I will say, to be fair, I thought the intro was a little long. I think you could have cut out what was actually. If you just left the first few paragraphs of the backstory, I think it would have been fine, and maybe he would have understood it a little bit better. But you had the lists of the restaurants and retail, and that just made the intro seem longer than it was. And I don't know. I'm not looking to make an excuse.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that when I read the project myself, I even skimmed it over because I don't like reading long intros. I like to get right to the meat of it.
Okay.
So maybe that was where.
I mean, it's like 3 paragraphs.
Well, I mean, like it looks longer than it is.
I guess so.
Saying. Yeah, it shouldn't. It's not really that long, but it looks longer than it is. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I'm not trying to defend his decision.
But when you read the project, though, did you get confused and think that it was actually set in the 1800s?
I didn't get confused. I got worried because I thought you guys were going to win, actually.
So there you go. There you go.
Yeah. But,
I don't know.
I'll take it for what it's worth because, I mean, like we were saying before, it would have been 5 against 7 at least. And then
totally. And here's the thing. I am not upset about losing in terms of, like, England did not contribute anything to this project whatsoever. England, I love you, bro, but I don't even really get why he signed up if he was just kind of drop off the face of the earth like this. But, he didn't contribute anything. He hasn't been online since like halfway through the first immunity challenge. So he was a super easy person to vote off. There was no politics involved there. It was a unanimous decision.
Right.
So I was not upset about losing the tribe member. And I guess for you guys, from that perspective, 5 against 7, yeah, you're right. I can see how that would have irked you. But I don't know. I guess it was just the fact that I don't know. I got into kind of super reporter mode with my friend who works at Disneyland and asking his opinions of it and everything. And I could dig up exact quotes, but I'm not going to do that because I want everything to be fair game and fun. And, keep in mind, this is a guy that actually works at Disneyland who's giving these critiques. But, the one thing he did say to me, and this was just if he was judging the competition, and it's our Michael's competition. So like I said, the title of this podcast is Points for Subjectivity, Stephen. But, but, in his perspective, what we did was we basically kept everything structurally the same, but kind of themed around it. He had a couple of notes on our project. He said maybe tone down the golf course from 2 9-hole courses to just 1 9-hole course for spatial purposes. He didn't like the fact that there were 2 Mexican restaurants right next to each other, which honestly I kind of caught after there was not enough time to do anything about that. But other than that, it was like, I don't know. And I guess another thing I had was your project once again, and I think this is kind of like a big running thing with how you guys operate versus how our team operates. We came up with a flowing narrative for our entire land, whereas what you guys did was it was mashed together, man. Like some of it just didn't even make sense to me. You about gave my friend a heart attack with Muppets in the ESPN zone.
Well, that was something for a person because he really wanted to do it, so we're not going to say no to him.
Okay, fair enough.
But I mean, it's not like Muppets have never been on ESPN.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just like out of all the places to put the Muppets, I don't know.
But I will say that our project was based around a city. It was a concept that I guess we all kind of came up with because we were looking at different things to do, how to make downtown Disney different. And then we thought, okay, downtown Disney, downtown in a city, why don't we try to make it like a city And then someone brought up the Westcott idea, and we were like, nah, that seems like kind of redoing it. Why don't we just make our own city? And why don't we base it off of something from, why don't we try to tie it in with Adventureland, New Orleans Square, make it sort of like a Mystic Manor historical district they were trying to build, and then it got shut down. And then in the 21st century, it's commercialized, and now we have our Disney Commons. So that's why we had all those different areas, because the city has a Little Italy, it has a Chinatown, Chinatown was supposed to be much bigger, by the way. It wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah, that was a big thing that pretty much everyone that I talked to was unanimous about. It was like, Chinatown is just a Panda Express. Like,
No,
really?
no,
Really?
we were putting the stuff on the site at the last minute, and we couldn't get everything up there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that was one of the kind of, and I mean, this isn't really a complaint. We can set the due date time at any time we want, but it's really difficult to get it in at 6 p.m. when, like, I get out of school at 5.
That's true. That's very true. So you want to be an Imagineer has all projects due at midnight.
Because I was sweating bullets to get this thing up. Red was a huge help. She was just like cutting and pasting stuff onto the site as I was trying to frantically type drop a map.
Oh god. Oh god.
It was chaos. But yeah, I don't know. It comes down to Subjectivity, which is your title of the podcast.
Yeah, isn't it a good title?
Yeah.
I'm very proud of my titles.
And that's kind of what all of these competitions come down to. And you win some, you lose some. You're always going to have another opportunity. It's not like you got kicked out for this challenge. If I got voted out for a challenge that I thought I should have won, then I would be a little bit more mad. But
like I said, there was absolutely no way that anyone other than England was going to get voted off unless there was like some big, unless England was just behind the scenes, like, hey guys, I know I didn't participate in this project, but blah 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 blah, let's vote out Tiki, blah 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 blah. You know, unless something crazy like that happened, and if something like that did happen, then honestly, I'd be borderline delighted by it, because it would just be so out of the blue.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, England was obviously our dead weight, and he was since the first immunity challenge. So it's a shame, because we all know that England could be a huge asset when he's on his A game. But you know, there was probably just other things going on. So
yeah, that's one thing you just gotta take into consideration with these things. But at least, I mean, I'm trying to look at the bright side of this. They're two toss-ups, basically. I mean, it's not like either is a bad project. We've had 4 websites so far, which has to be some sort of record.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah.
I mean, at least they've been putting out good content on both sides, which is a big improvement over, you know, not to say that the last few contests were bad projects. I'm just saying that I haven't seen this many websites and this much dedication in a while, which is nice. But yeah, it comes down to a judgment call, and it comes down to one person's perspective of it. And I think right now I would consider it a wash, basically. In terms of,
I have absolutely no hard feelings at all. This is just me kind of like analyzing it, and almost kind of like analyzing Michael's thought process behind it as well. Because from my perspective, and like I said, from the perspective of the nameless person who works at Disneyland, I thought it was a pretty clear-cut win on our guys' end, and you probably thought the same way. But like I said, it all has to come down to Michael. He's the host. He is the probst. He is the one who gives the final judgment. And I think, kind of like, if I may kind of like close out this portion, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
All right, I think kind of like at the end of the day, what I've kind of come around to is that it seems like Michael is looking for more ideas within a project versus cohesive ideas within a project. It seems like more ideas seems to impress him more than just kind of the simple idea of like, all right, let's have all these things flow together. Not saying I absolutely believe in that, not saying I agree with that, just saying it's kind of interesting like how these games go down. You kind of have to like adapt to the host's taste and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, everyone has a different style of taste. I mean, if you look back at last year, there were other question, you brought up the questionable decision. Remember last year's project about the Fantasyland style dark ride in Animal Kingdom? Stuff that little interpretations, like we took this. I always tried to take the prompt as like verbatim, this is what they want. And there was no indication in the prompt for Downtown Disney that we had to be realistic. And
well, to me, realism is just kind of one of those things that just comes with armchair imagineering for me. Right. I don't know. That's just my style.
Well, it is my style too, but basically when a prompt says you can demolish everything and start from scratch, I will demolish everything and start from scratch.
Okay. So fair enough. Points on your end for being creative and coming up with a ton of ideas.
And at least because considering that Disneyland has the room to expand north and build like a parking deck, kind of like, have you ever been to what's it called, the Grove in Los Angeles?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've driven by it.
That's basically what I was thinking of for this project. They have a huge parking deck, and then they have shops and restaurants next to it. But yeah, if you can make an adjustment that completely revitalizes something in a challenge, I'll take that. I mean, I usually I'll be realistic with it, but if there's no mention of it, like I remember specifically I was asking for the Tower of Terror project. It says to be realistic. And I take realism as something that will actually happen, something that might actually happen. And yours would probably be, if they did anything with Downtown Disney, would probably not change many of the buildings, probably not add very much. Keep it the same and change a theme.
And that's exactly what our team did.
Right. Our interpretation of the prompt was that you're free reign here to do whatever you want, except for keeping 5 of the realtors. So that's kind of the direction that we went. We never wanted to keep it exactly the same. We wanted to completely start it from scratch.
Okay, and I think let's kind of transition from there, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, it all comes down to subjectivity. Subjectivity is the word of the day here in Pee-wee's Playhouse. So say it with me. Subjectivity. But I guess let's just quickly get into the duel that went down on Redemption Island, where England just didn't show up. So of all England, like I said, it's just kind of personal things in the way. I want to address Brer Panther on air, and I'm sure, Space, you probably have some things to say about this, because Brer Panther essentially kind of just threw in the towel and said, I'm not good enough. Brer Panther, I've been following you since So You Want to Be an Imagineer, and if you've been following this stuff for this long, you are good enough. You have the passion for it. You appreciate Imagineering. You know what goes into it. Maybe you can schedule things a little better. Maybe you can find more time, but at the end of the day, I don't want you to have that attitude about this game, because I've seen some really good things come out of you. So that's just my 2 cents on it. It kind of made me sad to see a contestant beating themselves up like that.
No, I completely agree. And I think he kind of said the same thing after 1984 too, which I don't want it to be like I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but he has the talent, and you don't need to worry about, so what if you miss a due date? So what if he gets eliminated? There's always another competition. There's always another thing that you can do. If you don't like the competitions, then you don't have to do them. But that doesn't mean you have to leave everything in general.
The reason why he got voted out of your tribe, if I'm remembering correctly, is simply because he was the one person from your tribe to not submit a reward challenge, correct?
Yeah, that was basically it.
Other than that, if you would have submitted a reward challenge, it could have been entirely up in the air who went home from your tribe. That was just like, and especially in the early rounds of Survivor, it's just kind of like you're looking for an easy person to kind of point fingers at and target, and not submitting a project, especially when you're the one person to not do that, is going to hurt you.
And you know what? So, he made it to the top 8 in the choice, and last year he missed the Elite 8 by like 3 points.
That's what I'm saying. Come on, man. Come on.
So I read that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Stop.
Right.
Enough. You can handle this, and you already have. So, and literally, if he just posted one sentence, like I remember flipping not to pick on Flippin here, but he posted 2 sentences for the Tower of Terror project. If Brer Panther had posted 2 sentences, that vote could have gone.
Exactly.
So, 2 sentences. You're gonna over 2 sentences.
So I guess in that respect, we're saying this lovingly, Brer Panther. We really want to see you do well in these games.
Yeah.
Do you want to briefly talk about DSquared and how he's doing?
I think he really wants to get back into this game.
Yeah. I haven't had time to read over his project yet. Have you? His Redemption Island project?
I read over it. It was a little out of left field in some places. But I think that he basically just threw everything at the wall in case someone else had posted. Because, I mean, at the time that he posts, you don't know if someone else is going to post. So for 24 hours, I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say that he did all that he could in those 24 hours. And I think anyone who goes up against him in Redemption Island is in for a battle. Because he wants to make
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I agree. He definitely is thirsty to get back in the game. But like I said, I think if he does get back in the game, I don't think he's going to make the same mistakes he made the first time around. I think he's smart enough to learn that didn't work and he needs to take a separate approach.
Yeah, and he even said that on your podcast last time. Like if he could do it over again, he might not go as drastically.
Right.
Basically messaging everyone in the game at least twice.
Oh god. But in all seriousness, I am genuinely rooting for DSquared to get back in this. I think that it would be an amazing story, just from a storytelling production point of view, to have this guy who turned into this huge over-the-top villain come back from Redemption Island and potentially redeem himself and become a hero by the end of the season. I mean, who knows? Isn't it just like a Hollywood story waiting to happen?
It's a redemption story.
Exactly. Redemption Island. There you go. All right. I think we'll probably end it there if that's okay with you.
No, it sounds good to me.
Okay. So, tune in. I guess we will do another podcast once I don't know. I guess once oh dear. Oh, Jesus Christ.
What happened now?
Sam happened.
Where?
Sam, you have some bad timing, buddy.
Why don't we just end it?
I guess so.
Can you guys hear me? Am I coming through?
Yes. We were literally right about to end when you signed on.
Gosh darn. That always happens to me. I always come on at the end and just kind of derail everything.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, when I read 7:30, I forgot Eastern time.
Yeah, Eastern time. Yeah.
Central time.
That makes sense.
So, sorry about that.
Oh dear. That sucks. I feel bad now.
Missed the battle, Sam. Tiki threw our project under the bus and.
Oh, I threw down.
Gosh, well, I mean, I can do a response. A second response.
I mean, honestly, I have homework to do, and I also have 2 other podcasts, so I'm really low on time tonight.
No, my responses are short and quick.
Okay, fine. What's your response?
Here's my response. Y'all sucked.
Fair enough.
Terrible.
Making Lasatoki look good.
Terrible. Also, okay, that map. I will say one thing about the map before you guys end it, and it's not a long thing, but the map. I was disappointed in the map. I was disappointed in the map because that was a very easy thing to do.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? What you gonna do, girl? What you gonna do?
But thumbs up. Well, not thumbs up, but props for getting out a big fish.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't a big fish because he contributed nothing for a project and a half.
Had he sailed by, he would have been a big threat.
Yeah.
I mean, he's England. He's always a threat.
He's Batman.
All right, so
I'm sure he was
I will let you
patrolling
guys
Gotham
close out.
City. All right, Sam, give us who are you endorsing for president?
For president,
Yes.
gosh, okay. Well,
I'm genuinely curious.
you know, in the words of Sarah Palin,
Oh dear.
you know, the only person you gotta support is freedom. Okay, you know, me and my pet polar bear Rocco, we you know, when I hear all these lamestream media bullcrap, you know, I get a little lightheaded, and Rocco is always there by my side, and I just take that polar bear by the reins, straddle him on the back, and ride him on to freedom. So you know what? The nominee for president needs to take Rocco and ride him across America to freedom.
Fair enough. Have a good night, everyone. Oh, hey, yo, 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 hey, yo, 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 yo,